So continuing with the non-political related content, I'm going to go back to talking about the circus. Many of us will remember what it was like when we were children. If you ever saw an animal at a circus, they were kept in cages for the most part. The conditions were, by any standard, inhumane. If you go back further, they travelled on trains. Do you remember the film Dumbo? Well, that wasn't exactly drawn from the figment of someone's imagination. Okay, the flying elephant part was, the train part. I'm not playing a clip of it though. The animals were themselves either trained, like some bears were, or just used as a means to stun the audience, which, when I was a kid, I thought was cool. As I got older and I realised they're living beings and this isn't right, I started to distance myself from it in favour of simply saying, I'm not going to go to a circus that has this. The point of a circus is to stun. It is to astonish. It is to entertain. So naturally, they have to adapt. Many did not. Many fell off the radar. There was a circus in my town recently. I don't know if it did any well, but it stayed for a while, so one can assume it did well enough to make its money. I also don't recall seeing any cages, so I don't believe this one had animals. So that element, now being removed, does with it take an audience away. Let's not forget here, some are afraid of clowns. So, for reasons that I would like to point out are unique and totally not hilarious. With the shows having to adapt and change, as I said, some have not done this, but others have, and one has gone so far as to feature in the news recently, called Circus Roncalli. Now, like any other show, it had clowns, trapeze shows, and some of Earth's majestic creatures. But this German circus has now decided to take a stance against wildlife abuse, and I'm all for that. I hope any animal it did have is either in a zoo or released back into its natural environment, if it can be released. I would assume a sanctuary or a zoo would be ideal. The original founders of this particular zoo, Bernard Paul and André Heller, they used to use animals in this. Bernard Paul, though, has actually been the one that took a stance against animal abuse. The circus's agency partnered with companies Blue Box and Optima to achieve something quite stunning, something which, upon hearing it, I was quite astonished by. The circus itself has actually been using Optima's projectors for 6 years, and as part of the experience, they've actually received quite a high response, positive response, with performance and reliability being incredibly high, to the point where what they are trying to do is now getting to an incredibly high contrast and 3D visual effect. Now, many of you are going to wonder, what on earth have they done that has removed the animals but introduced something that replaces it to such an amazing degree? Well, they've replaced the animals with holograms. The current project, or the projections, involve horses, elephants, and goldfish. Natural mainstays in a circus, of course, is the goldfish. Magikarp, you splash. Upon looking at the pictures of this, I actually think they've done something quite unique. This picture especially, of the elephant, it is fantastic. Within the space that they inhabit when they put on their shows, this is able to stomp around on the floor. If they're able to do audio effects for that as well, that would be amazing. Because it is a fantastic way forward. It is a spectacle, it is entertaining, and I think it is progress that I would approve of. I've seen people use holograms for shows. Didn't the Gorillas do a holographic show once? The cost of this is $500,000. To get it to where it is now, it's cost $500,000 of Bernard Paul's own money, which is what he was happy to invest to keep the show going, but also adapt to the point where the show could be more entertaining. While the cost to install this and keep it going is high, I would surmise it's probably going to work out cheaper than keeping an elephant on staff. So perhaps there was a bit more of a money-saving element with long-term potential, that is. Unsurprisingly, people on social media love this, and that's great. It stops mistreatment and abuse that animals are actually subjected to in real circuses, pictures of which I'm not going to show because, quite frankly, no. There are no plans at this present time to expand the current holographic lineup, but this initial step to me is brilliant. There is someone of the Animal Defenders International Organization that said this is the future of circuses, a performance everyone can enjoy and for which intelligent, sentient beings are not used and depicted as objects of entertainment. You clearly haven't seen a bear on a bike. It is highly entertaining. The best part for me is when the bear gets off and mauls the tamer. There are still many instances around the world where animals are subjected to horrific conditions and treated very poorly for the entertainment of others. I am all for banning it, because to me, it's not right or fair. I would very much like this circus to come to the UK, because I'd like to see it. And actually, coincidentally, I now know why the circus that came to my town didn't have any animals, because a month ago, we actually banned it. We banned wild animals from being used in circuses for performances, although it does take effect in 2020, so clearly it took a while to get that through, and perhaps they could have still used wild animals in their performances. Goldfish, I guess, would be the perfect thing. There is a guy I remember seeing, and I'm going to tell this little anecdote. At my first party I went to at university, it's called Icebreaker. And the first night, went to this party, and on stage we had a guy called the Regurgitator. He would put like a pool ball in his mouth, swallow it, and bring it back up. Or that's how it looked like he was doing it. And I think he did it with a goldfish as well. I don't know how he did the trick. At some point I'm going to look it up. I'm not sure. I mean, he may have had that much control that he could actually swallow it and just keep it somewhere down his esophagus. Who knows? It's fascinating to me nonetheless. And for me, holograms are quite something, especially with the amount of money invested, and the contrast is astonishingly high. It's at, so the ZU-850s, which are used, has a 2 million to 1 contrast. That is quality. I bet that's the kind of quality camera Sophane would be moist over. Hi Sophane, how you doing? I wonder if in the future, to save money on employees, they'll maybe phase out the clowns that scare people in favour of holographic clowns. Considering how much they scare people in the first place, I think it'd be very interesting to see how someone handles a holographic one when they're afraid. Because humans can adapt and do things that are a bit more compatible, in that they can then do something to try and make someone feel at ease. A hologram can't do that, unless they have pre-programmed responses and can alter it on command. Which would be quite interesting, really. Because I don't know if this hologram is a pre-done video, or whether it is interactive to an extent. Well, that would be an interesting progression, wouldn't it? Oh, I like this. This has my mind kind of firing up, better than a cup of tea could. Anyway, I have recently recorded and released a Moisky Reads video over on that channel. I'll link it below, called iBid. But also, I have been uploading videos to the Moisky Live channel, political videos, covering Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, and later on today I'll put out one for Esther McVeigh. I'm also going to cover the recent winning of Labour in Peterborough marginally, and the fact that their new candidate has already landed in hot water for anti-Semitic comments. I know. Imagine my shock. Anyway, I do apologise for the editing of this video. I am very tired. I needed sleep, and so I'm choosing a lazier approach for the day. I hope you all have a lovely Monday, and thank you all for listening.